Hey everybody, welcome to Instant Analysis here on KXAN Live. I'm your host, Billy Gates, and we just saw kind of the same song and dance from the Texas Longhorns. They get it big in the first half, and then they let the other team back in the game, but they took out TCU 29-26 up in Fort Worth on Saturday night. And here to talk about it with me is KXAN sports anchor on the weekends and a sports reporter whenever he wants to be, Jonathan Thomas. So, John, I mean,
well put.
This is thank you. We've seen this movie before. They let Houston back in the game. They let Kansas State back in the game after big leads, and when it looks like they were primed for a blowout, they let TCU back in the game. I mean, this, on one hand, they are finding ways to win close games. They haven't done that in the past, so that's a good thing. But I kind of get the feeling some fans and really head coach Steve Sarkisian would really like a blowout victory sometime.
Yeah, which we haven't really seen. I mean, they did handle BYU very well.
Yeah,
they beat them. That was a blowout. I guess you could classify that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, once again, I'm not that I'm an expert on this, but by the hair, their chinny chin chin. I don't have a whole lot of chin hairs, but Texas got it done. It took. I mean, really, the thing it took, which was interesting, the way they sealed the game was a 35-yard completion from Quinn Ewers to Adonai Mitchell on 3rd and 12. They were backed up deep in their own territory, and Mitchell had to make quite an adjustment to get that football because that throw wasn't the best from Quinn Ewers, but Mitchell was in the area, able to adjust on the turf, had it, and that ended the game pretty much right there. And, I mean, Texas has got to just figure out a way to just keep their foot on the gas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these games and these opponents, with their, I hate to do the cliche thing, throw the records out, but I mean, TCU had lost a couple in a row coming into this one. They were below 500. It's easy to look at them and say, they don't have their starting quarterback, at least the one who started the season.
Right, yeah,
Chandler Morris.
Yeah, he's been out since since they played Houston, maybe? No, Iowa State. Since they played Iowa State, he got hurt in that game. Yeah, lost, yeah.
So, I mean, so it's easy to look at that team and go, okay, Texas should blow them away with all the Texas talent. Texas has Quinn Ewers making his return as a starting quarterback. It's easy to look at it, but it's hard to beat these teams. These teams have talent. Even the teams that are considered weaker have talent, and they gave Texas all they could handle in this one in Fort Worth. But you're right. I mean, the Longhorns, they'll have to figure out a way to stay in control of the game when they have it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're up 26-6 at halftime, you've got to figure out a way to keep keep it going, the whole thing. And the fourth quarter especially, that's when you should be locking teams down. And these teams, their recent opponents are having a lot of success in the fourth quarter.
No, TCU outscores Texas 20-3 in the fourth quarter. Texas got really, really conservative with play calling there in the fourth quarter. Obviously, when you're up 26-6, you want to run the ball more. You want to just kind of bleed that clock. Jonathan Brooks going down early in the fourth quarter with what appeared to be some kind of ankle or lower leg injury. He did it on like a 9-yard run that pushed him over the 100-yard mark for the day. So he rushed for 104 yards on 21 carries and a pair of touchdowns. Great night for him, except he picked up that injury. So we'll see where that's at probably Monday when Sarkisian has his weekly press conference. Hopefully, for Brooks' sake, for the Longhorns' sake, it's not too bad because he's one of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah.
Let's see. The loss makes TCU 0-4 in one-score games. Last year, TCU was 7-1 in one-score games, and as we all know, they finished runner-up in the college football playoff last season. This team, very different.
Yeah, what a difference
from last year's team.
What a difference a year makes.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where Texas has been great in one-score games this season. TCU was great last year. They're not this year.
No.
For the Longhorns, we mentioned it's Quinn Ewers' first game back after missing the past 2 games with a shoulder injury. We got some good and bad. He had some rust. He had a knockoff, but he finishes the game pretty good night. 22 of 33, 317 yards with a touchdown and a pick. And that pick, what a sequence that was there in the first quarter. Ewers just skyballs this pass to no one really in particular. Miller Bradford gets under it, picks it off during his return, and this ended up being a really big play. During Bradford's return, Jordan Whittington, who does everything for Texas, he's one of those. He's what Jay Billis would call a glue guy, like on a basketball team.
I knew you were going to say glue guy. I knew you were going to say that. I'm not kidding. I had it, and then he's going to say glue guy.
He's a glue guy.
Before you even said Jay Billis, by the way, which was a big hint. But yes. I mean, even before you said that, I knew.
I like to mix in my college basketball references every now and then. But Whittington runs Bradford down, takes a swipe at the ball, knocks it loose. Xavier Worthy jumps on it. So it's a 2-possession or a 2-turnover play with the interception and then the fumble. And Worthy jumps on it and gives Texas a fresh set of downs, takes possession away from TCU. That could have, maybe they kick a field goal, maybe they score a touchdown off the interception. And then they have a fourth and goal stand. I'll spit it out eventually.
Yeah, no.
That TCU could have kicked an easy chip shot field goal. So.
And what was the margin of victory?
The margin of victory is 3 points, Jonathan. This many.
Yeah. So that stop by Texas was huge. That decision by TCU was huge as well. And at that point in the game, I understood them going for it. It's easy after they come back, late and make it interesting and have, get it to a 1-possession game. Yeah. It's easy to second guess that 3 quarters back. But at the time, it made sense. However, this is the thing. When you make those decisions, you really are rolling the dice because, even if it might be the right thing to be aggressive, only time will tell if that really was the right decision. Because if they are conservative there, you're looking at, a tie game, if everything remained the same.
Yep, hindsight's always 20/20. Always 20/20. And the best place to a quarterback is from the chair. Is be an armchair quarterback.
Yeah. Like what we're doing
what we're doing right now. For Texas, Xavier Worthy, tremendous game, 10 catches on 13 targets, 137 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but Adonai Mitchell did. 3 catches for 61 yards. Jatavion Sanders, nice day, 4 catches, 47 yards. And Jonathan Brooks had a 73-yard screen pass, I believe in the first quarter. To set up his first rushing touchdown. He had that whole drive to himself, 2-play, 75-yard drive. Brooks with a 73-yard reception on a screen pass, and then a 2-yard rush for the first touchdown of the game. For TCU, Savion Williams had a tremendous game for the Horned Frogs. 11 catches, 164 yards, and a touchdown. And Josh Hoover, who is the backup quarterback, as we mentioned, Chandler Morris has been injured. Hoover was 24 for 36, 302 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Terrence Brooks had that interception for the Longhorns. We could go over numbers all day long. Texas outgained TCU 482 to 390. Texas held TCU to 88 yards on the ground, trying to hold this rushing team to that number, pretty good. Amani Bailey, 21 carries, 98 yards, and a touchdown for TCU. They've got a dynamic offense. It's just they're not good in close games.
Right, yeah. Well, because they're missing that like a playmaker.
Yeah.
Like they're missing like a big-time playmaker. They don't have anybody to really do that. They have guys who are stepping up like Savion Williams, but they don't have someone who they can just depend on. Texas has a few guys like that. Texas has Xavier Worthy. And even if they use him as a decoy, you got Adonai Mitchell who can come up with a big play. You got JT Sanders, who's always a threat. Defenses always have to pay attention to him. So, Texas has big time playmakers, and they have that. And obviously, Jonathan Brooks was hurt, but he's another guy as well. C.J. Baxter, the number 2 running back, another guy who's heading in that direction. So, they have that area figured out. That's why they're able to survive. That's why they've been able to survive because, when you have talent like that and guys that can make the big play, everybody on defense has to account for them. Mm-hmm. And you got multiple options if, whether you're Quinn Ewers tonight or Malik Muhammad, Malik Murphy, the passing game. He's on defense. He's a defensive back. But when you have that, at your disposal as a quarterback, that's the thing. Like it bodes really well for Texas to have this talent, and that's something that Sarkisian has been on since he stepped foot on the 40 acres. He wants big humans and he wants playmakers. And that is not steering him wrong, and that is why they are at the point they are right now, 9-1, 6-1 in Big 12 play. Best start, through this time period in Big 12 play in 10 years. Best record through 10 games in 14, because they have big humans and playmakers, and other teams can't really match that or haven't been able to match that thus far.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, a couple more numbers here. Texas wins the turnover battle 2-1. They scored 10 points off those turnovers. So that's one of the things that Sarkisian has been preaching the entire season. Win the turnover battle and turn them into points. Let's see, Texas ran 10 more plays than TCU did, 74-64. And penalties have kind of crept into Texas's game a little bit. They were amongst the national leaders in fewest penalties per game and fewest penalty yards per game. These past few games, they've been getting up there. They had 7 penalties for 59 yards tonight, to 6 penalties and 51 yards to TCU. And TCU is 3 for 4 in the red zone. Texas came into the game as the second best red zone team in the country. They still pretty good, obviously, and they had that 4th down stop near the goal line that really helped propel them to this win. They've also been very good on 3rd down. They're also the second best team in the country on 3rd down defense, only allowing teams to convert around 26% of the time. And TCU is 3 for 11. So pretty good night. Like if you're playing good defense on 3rd down and you're playing good defense in the red zone, that's a pretty good recipe for success, if your offense can score points. And as we all know, this Texas offense can score a lot of points.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to just, briefly touch on Quinn Ewers, because obviously him making his return after his injury, 317 yards passing, as you said earlier. I heard Sarkisian say after the game that basically, and what else is he going to say? We'll take it. We'll take that performance. He was basically, I'm paraphrasing time here, but he's basically saying, if you told me before the game that those are going to be his numbers, I'll take that. I'm happy with that. And I think the big thing was they didn't want him to get hurt again, and they didn't want him to make a huge mistake. He made mistakes, but he was able to, maintain and at least, not hand TCU a prime chance to, really, kick it into high gear in that 4th quarter. You mentioned them being more conservative, and I wonder, if they were a little nervous about that, shoulder still with Ewers, even though he was starting and he was good to go. Because they really didn't, take a lot of shots in that second half, and I wonder if that came into play. And like I said, that last throw, was not really on the mark. Now, he had throws before, though, that were deep, that were on the mark. But then he had throws that were deep, that were way off. So he was a little inconsistent tonight with the deep ball. But, again, made the play when he needed to, made the throw, got it in the area, batted on Mitchell, and Mitchell did a great job.
Just a great play. Absolutely great play. I mean, the ball was underthrown a little bit. The ball was to Mitchell's outside shoulder to the sideline. And he essentially caught that ball laying on his back.
Yeah.
and that was the play that got them the first down. TCU only had one timeout left. There was under 2 minutes left of the game on that 3rd and 12 play, and then Texas was able to bleed the clock out and get out of there with a win. So I mean, clearly from that standpoint, play of the game right there. But I mean, I don't want to say that that maybe Ewers came back too soon, because like he had a pretty good game, but there was some rust there. I mean, obviously an injury to your throwing shoulder kind of prohibits you from, throwing for a bit. Sarkisian said all week that that Ewers had great practices and he was throwing the ball well, and obviously they felt comfortable enough to get him in there and play him the whole game. So I mean, he had to have been performing in practice for them to trust him, because Malik Murphy is a fantastic backup quarterback. I mean, he could, with a little more seasoning and some more reps, like he could start in a lot of places. So
yeah,
it was a little interesting for me to bring back Ewers after 2 weeks after a throwing shoulder injury, but clearly Sarkisian and the staff know him better than you and I do.
Yes.
So they got out of there with a win. That's the most important thing. It keeps their Big 12 Conference Championship game hopes alive, and it keeps them in the hunt for potentially a college football playoff spot, which the next 2 weeks a lot is gonna unfold with that. So like we get a little bit ahead of ourselves when we start talking college football playoff. So we'll pump the brakes on that at least. But again, Texas, they find a way to win a close game, 29-26. Even last year, they probably don't win this game. 2 years ago, they certainly don't win this game. And they're very open about that when Sarkisian and all the players, when they're asked about it, like they're totally like, oh yeah, like we would not have won this game in Sarkisian's first year, maybe not his second year, but Sarkisian and the staff, they've really taken this program to another level. I feel like they have an even higher ceiling. I mean, is that sort of like maybe something you agree with?
Yeah, it's going to me. I mean, it's going exactly according to plan. I mean, when you look at the overall results, like, yeah, obviously certain things they'd like to clean up and they'd like to have things go differently,
right.
When you zoom in, but overall, everything's going exactly according to plan. He's recruiting the type of athletes he wants. He's recruiting the type of playmakers and developing the kind of playmakers that they want to have and the kind of depth. We talked about Malik Murphy. He stepped in, did a nice job filling in for Quinn Ewers. Ewers comes back. They don't miss a beat in terms of, taking an L, right? So it's exactly what you want. We'll see what happens with Jonathan Brooks, but
right.
CJ Baxter, he's got a lot of talent. He's on his way to being an excellent running back as
Absolutely.
well. So it's like, it's not one of those things where, Texas, they have the kind of team, at least, in terms of Sarkisian's vision, they have the kind of team that they want to have for years to come. So that's exactly. I totally agree with everything you said. I think overall they're happy where they're at. Very happy. I mean, they're ranked 7th, 9-1, 6-1, and atop the Big 12. You can't ask for anything better than that.
Certainly can't. Maybe you can ask for a Red River rivalry win, but other than that,
well, yes, but yeah, that's true. That
I know what you mean.
True.
No. I mean, they're sitting in a pretty good spot right now. 2 games left. They got Iowa State on the road next week. Always a tough place to play up in Ames. We were talking earlier in our office, and Jack Trice Stadium is a bit of a vortex.
Yeah.
Like, you never really know what's going to happen there. Iowa State could be having an awful season. They could be having a great season. But when you get there, things kind of get a little wacky. So we'll talk about that as the week goes on. But for now, we'll leave this here. Texas beats TCU 29-26 in Fort Worth. They keep their Big 12 Conference Championship game hopes alive, and they live to fight another day. For Jonathan Thomas, I'm Billy Gates. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.